So in this video, I finally want to talk about this Nikita Dragun situation that so many of you guys have asked me to cover. So for those who don't know, Nikita is an Asian trans woman who refers to herself as the first trans woman pop star. And I was not familiar with Miss Nikita before now, but to my understanding, she has been very controversial in the past. She's been accused of blackfishing. She's been accused of being racist and anti-black. And so she released a short video on Instagram where she was pretty much calling everybody out. She was telling people not to play with her D. She was basically calling people out for hiding her or hiding their romantic interest in her. She put a screenshot of the rapper Tyga sliding up in her DMs, giving her his number, which Tyga has come out denying that he was trying to get at her like that. But as some of you know, he has been outed before for dealing with trans women. So, I think it's probably true. That is probably what he's attracted to. And also in the video, Nikita called out women for not giving her credit for the trends that she says she created. And in one part of the video, she accused the rapper Asian Doll, and she included a photo of Asian Doll with the word D on the picture, which led a lot of people to believe that she was low-key misgendering Asian Doll and calling her a man, as well as other women that she accused of stealing from her as well in the video. And this is just a side note, but I really hope that this situation inspires Asian Doll to change her name, because it's honestly embarrassing that she named herself Asian Doll to basically other herself, and I guess to put her Asian-like features on a pedestal. And now she's literally having to defend herself against this alleged racist Asian trans woman who's accusing black women of copying her. It's just a really bad look when her name is Asian Doll. And this is why I tell black women, give them no reason to say you want to be like them, these non-black women. Get on code and give them nothing. So anyway, after recognizing Asian Doll in the video, people obviously began tagging her to make her aware of the situation. And so when Asian Doll caught wind of what was going on, she rightfully took offense to this and she responded. And she responded saying, Nikita will get dragged by his bald head. What they call boys that pick on girls, bullying. And so Nikita responded to that and she said, I said, you wearing shit that I already wore, basically to say, hey, I wasn't bullying you. This is all that I said. And basically, Nikita was trying to downplay the situation. And so she said, respectfully, this statement was to show that trans women set the trends for cisgendered females, yet never get the credit. This was not meant to be shady towards you. You just happen to be an example. And so Asian Doll says, but every song you shake your cardboard ass to is African American. You literally dress like a black girl. You wanted your ass big like a black girl. You wear lace fronts and black girls started that trend. You got lip fillers because you wanted big lips like a black girl. Be pleased, before you got on that table, you was an Asian boy. You got off that table looking like a black girl. You even made your skin darker with makeup. Truth be told, you want to be a black girl. And so Asian Doll really went in. And you had other black women jumping in telling Nikita, hey, actually, no, it's black women who set the trends. And so Nikita responded saying, no, black trans women and black gay people gave the culture. And another black woman said, I just feel as though you think y'all made everything. If there were no women, what would you want to look like or look up to exactly? And Nikita says, trans women are the most beautiful creatures to walk the earth. I've never seen a cisgendered female even come close to looking how my sisters look. So after all of this took place, Asian Doll actually had to deactivate her social media. And that is because she was getting attacked left and right for misgendering Nikita. And a lot of people, including many black women, were saying, oh, well, I get why Asian Doll got upset, but she did not have to misgender Nikita. And they were saying, well, how do you accuse Nikita of cultural appropriation when your name is Asian Doll? And I already talked about the name earlier, so you guys know how I feel about that. And I do agree that misgendering trans women isn't necessary. It can be very harmful to them. But what I don't like about this situation is how this Asian trans woman, she's not even black. From what I read about her, she has a history of being anti-black. She completely denied Black women's obvious influence on almost every trend that you can think of. She made this unnecessary, catty video to attack women and out men who sleep with trans women. Meanwhile, if biological Black women out trans women, it's a problem, right? So she's putting a target on trans women's back by doing that. She may have misgendered a Black woman and then goes on to brag about how trans women are better looking than biological women. And after all that, we have Black women making her out to be the poor little victim when she obviously started the war and she wanted all of the smoke. And what I saw were a lot of Black women condemning Asian Doll, but what I didn't see were many trans women checking Nikita. And I know T.S. Madison did, hold Nikita accountable, which I'll get into her response in a minute. But I looked in the comment section under the video that Nikita released. I saw trans women, prominent, well-known trans women, and the gays pretty much praising her for the video. I saw biological Black women under there praising her for the video. I didn't see them calling her divisive or calling out her misogyny. I saw mostly good feedback. Yet Asian Doll had to deactivate her social media because she was getting dragged, and by many Black women for not using the right pronouns. And see, in my opinion, this is where Black women mess up. As usual, you're trying to be fair. You're trying to live by this moral code that no other group follows. You're trying to hold all parties accountable equally. Meanwhile, most trans women in the LGBT are either silent about this or they're siding with Nikita. Nikita has over 9 million followers. So when you take that into consideration, there's virtually no outrage about this. And Black women, I don't want to hear, oh, it's not all trans women, because for years now, I have been giving you example after example after example of how many trans women think, how many of them shit on biological women, our body parts, and especially biological Black women. And like I told you, I have experience with them, so I'm aware of how a lot of them think. And if we have to admit that most Black women are transphobic or homophobic, then we should be allowed to say that most trans women, as well as the LGBT in general, are misogynistic. They are. It is what it is. One of my best friends is gay. I grew up partying with the gays. So I have seen with my own 2 eyes the back and forth that happens between trans women and women. Also between gay men and women. And the disrespect goes both ways. Now, let's get into T.S. Madison's response to all of this.
Personally, I think that, this was definitely an unneeded situation. I don't know what Nikita was trying to do to maybe sell her album, her record, or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't have anything. I personally don't know Nikita. I don't know her. I get what she was saying about, they're tired of situations of girls being, in the background, and girls need to be in the forefront of stuff. But sis, this is not the way you do it. This is no shade to Nikita. Okay, but sis, you're not Black. And in our Black community, we already have a huge divide amongst Black cis women and Black, trans women. And girl, this just was an added fuel to, try to make it seem like that we are in some huge competition with each other, especially talking about who looked better than who looked more real than who did this, and who. What women saying, like, they always feel like that there's a big issue. But women, you have to understand that, you all have this thing. You have this thing inside of you as a natural. You're naturally competitive anyway, and so us being trans women coming in the door, we have to stop going around and acting like that it's not an issue. Like you already feel a certain way, when with other women, and so when trans women come in the door, it's already bitchy, and you ain't even no real bitch. So I gotta whoop your ass too.
Now, I'm not going to play the whole video, but I do agree with what T.S. Madison said about this. But one thing I'm confused on is what she said about biological women being naturally competitive. Now, if trans women are women, does that not make trans women naturally competitive as well? Like, where is the logic here? We can clearly see that Nikita is in competition with biological women based on that video she made. So why are trans women acting like this is one-sided? And this is why I keep telling Black women, you very well may not be in competition with trans women, but a lot of them are in competition with you. And it's mainly because they want the same straight men that most of us want. And I think I can speak for a lot of Black women when I say this, but I have never been in competition with trans women for men. The problem that I have with trans women, and I'm going to keep saying this, is when they start projecting their issues with black men, and I'm talking about black trans women here, but when they start projecting their issues with black men onto black women, and they have more smoke for us than they do the men who are killing them. I have a problem with trans women when they trivialize my plight as a biological woman and start shaming my body parts to legitimize themselves as women and pretend like my body parts aren't irrelevant, even though they're paying to get them to make themselves feel more like women. And I have a problem when they hear me say that those are my problems, and then they turn around and make it all about men, when that's usually what it's about for them. It's gaslighting, and I don't like it. It's very similar to how we are treated by men, yet you want me to embrace you as a woman. And what I will say to black women is that if you find out your man or a man is trans amorous or trans attracted, and you feel the need to out the trans woman he's attracted to or misgender them, then it does make you look threatened. It does make you look pressed, and it makes you look like you're in competition with them. So just keep that in mind, black women, before you start hollering about not being in competition with them for men. I personally don't care to out trans women. I don't care about the men who date them or if men are attracted to them. All I care about is when they are misogynist towards women and hide it behind transphobia and oppression. But what I notice about trans women is that they will pick and choose when to be women, much like biracials like to claim to be black when convenient and then other themselves when it's not convenient. That is kind of what T.S. Madison did in her video. When it was about women being quote unquote naturally competitive, suddenly it wasn't all women, it was just biological women, right? And I guess trans women aren't included in that, but it's like, okay, are you a woman or aren't you? One minute you're a woman, then you're shaming biological women for things that most women do or have naturally, whether it's competitiveness in this case, whether it's our vaginas, our non-surgical breasts that may hang a little bit lower than yours, the ones that you paid for. And I know that, biological women who get surgeries, they do that too. But it especially doesn't make sense for a trans woman. You can say that sex and certain body parts don't determine gender, but the majority of women have certain body parts. That is not debatable. If you're a woman, like you say you are, what do you look like shaming women for having the natural body parts that you are paying for? It literally makes no sense. Now, I want to circle back around to what Nikita said about trans women setting the trends. Now, it's obvious that black women start most of the trends. That's another thing that's just not debatable. It can't be debated. And it literally makes no sense to say that trans women started everything when most of the time they are referencing biological women and using them as inspiration during their transition. Like I said, I'm very familiar with the gays. I've been to the balls. I know about the different houses. I'm familiar with the drag queens, and they definitely have their own culture and they have their own creations and their own way of doing things. I definitely won't take that away from them. All I'm saying is that a lot of the ideas were inspired by women. It's just the exaggerated biological female behavior or, mannerisms or hairstyles or attitudes or whatever, the exaggerated makeup, the clothes, the wigs. And so it is their culture, but it was inspired by women. And what has happened, particularly in the black community, is black women have adopted many of those exaggerated beauty practices from the gays. And in my opinion, it's largely been to our detriment. And it's not to say that no good has come from it or, a lot of it's not fun and they don't teach us some things, because some gay men and drag queens and trans women, they do great hair, they do great makeup when it actually enhances our beauty as women. And it's not overdone. And I'm talking about the ones that do the makeup and the hair on biological women, right? I won't deny that some of it does look good and they are really good at beauty and fashion. And I'm all about black women enhancing our beauty with anything we want to enhance it with. But much of what we consider to be enhancing our beauty today as Black women is very unflattering on us because the additions are simply overdone. And I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for saying this, but the drag queen makeup, the exaggerated eyelashes, the exaggerated eyebrows, the over the top wigs and weaves, the unrealistic baby hairs, all of the things that drag queens, trans women use to look more like women and feminize their appearance, it really takes away from our beauty as biological women. Biological Black women are out here looking like caricatures of Black women, almost like a drag queen would look. And look, it's appropriate for drag queens, right? Them being over the top is kind of the point, but it doesn't translate the same way on us. It actually does the opposite of what Black women thinks it does. It masculinizes our features and it takes away from our femininity when we are trying to look more feminine. So while I will agree that those trends, those exaggerated beauty trends, do come from the gay men, the trans women, and the drag queens, it's not necessarily something that always benefits us. And I've said it before, but I just don't think Black women, or any woman for that matter, needs all of that extra dramatic makeup and hair to be beautiful. But because we've been conditioned as Black women to believe that we need to add all of that extra stuff to our appearance to be beautiful, we've internalized it. And here we are. Here we are with the 48-inch weave, the super long eyelashes and fingernails, the overdone highlighting and contouring, the hypersexualization. It's all just extra. And I'm not saying that Black women are the only ones who do this, but it's more prevalent in Black culture, largely because of the anti-Blackness and the colorism and the misogynoir and the self-hate. So of course, many Black women are going to try to other themselves as much as possible and look, quote unquote, less Black as much as possible through these exaggerated beauty enhancements. This is part of why Asian Doll calls herself Asian Doll. Let's be real. We're trying to, quote unquote, exotify ourselves, right? And I know Black women are going to say, oh, Chrissy, it's all about variety. We like to switch it up. But like I always say, it's not variety when you barely wear your natural hair or you wear weave that does not match your natural hair 11 months out of the year. It's not variety if you're always trying to look exotic or mixed with these glued down fake baby hairs. Or, this wet and wavy type 3 looking weave. And I just think that overall we need to stop allowing the Black community, and this does include some of the gays and the drag queens that try to convince you that you have to be quote unquote beat or use their over exaggerated beauty practices to look good. Like I said, they can make you look good. Some of them, they can give you great beauty and fashion advice, but much of the time it's overkill because like I said, they too have internalized colorism, featureism, texturism, misogynoir, the whole nine. So they're trying to other you as well. These are not just quote unquote cisgender isms, right? They are perpetuated in the LGBT community as well. And we're not just going to skip over them because they're more oppressed than us in many ways. We're not going to issue out passes for their anti-Black woman behavior, not on this channel. You can't just say any and everything you want about Black biological women and expect us to never clap back or never say anything or never defend ourselves. And I have to say that I find it very interesting that Black women online, particularly these Black feminists that come so hard at me and my camp, y'all can write think pieces, you can sit down and record video essays, you can talk about how other Black women are perpetuating transphobia, how it's capitalism and classism within the Black woman in luxury movement, how we're upholding European beauty standards in the Black femininity discourse. You can complain about how we perpetuate fat phobia against other Black women, but those same Black women are silent and quiet as a mouse about this. They're quiet as a mouse when trans women participate in the very same things against biological Black women. Those women are literally afraid to speak about this. They are saying nothing. And now that I said that, they may bite the bullet and make a video about it. But in general, Black women in these spaces are actually scared of calling this mess out because any valid critique made by biological Black women that's made about trans women is labeled transphobic or quote unquote hating trans women. This is where we're at now. We are literally walking on eggshells with them. But under the video I just did about Normani and Chloe and Ari, Other black women are all up under that video. Oh, it's not about colorism. Not everything is colorism, Chrissy. We can't always be the victim. Well, neither can trans women. Not everything is transphobia, ladies, just like not everything is colorism. And if transphobia isn't everything, then so is colorism. See, I'm not about to play these one-sided reindeer games with y'all. Keep the same energy or get out of my face. And to the black women who say, oh, well, I don't say anything about trans women because we have more privilege than them and we can produce more harm. I call bullshit on that reason. Black women can attack and condemn a minority of black women who are making femininity videos, hypergamy content, and whose impact is literally a drop in the bucket. But y'all can't call out a problematic trans woman with millions of followers and a ton of influence. You can't call out the LGBT community, which at this point has more power than black women like us online. You can't call them out for their misogynoir, but you can attack our small niche spaces that most black women don't even participate in. You can call out a small aesthetic like the black woman in luxury aesthetic, but you can't call out Nikita Dragun with almost 10 million followers. Yeah, you're full of shit. And I'm sorry, but if other trans women aren't doing enough to hold their community accountable, then I'm gonna have to jump in and say something. This ain't no, oh, we should let other trans women handle this. No, they're not handling it efficiently, so I'm going to speak up about it. Trans women and everybody else can say whatever they want about biological black women with no filter. They can be as disrespectful as they want to be. But when we respond, whether it be clapping back or just critiquing them, we're labeled as the villain and we're ran off the internet. That is crazy to me. This is how bad it's gotten, in my opinion. Biological black women can't even discuss the mistreatment that we get from other groups, whether it be trans women, black men, light-skinned women. We can't discuss any of it without walking on eggshells or being demonized. And it's gotten to the point to where we either don't say anything and we ignore it because, out of fear, of the backlash, or we have to talk about it behind a paywall. It's perfectly fine for us to cape for other people out loud and in public, or condemn each other out loud and in public for, what we do wrong as black women. But when we cape for ourselves and we really be selfish like other groups, it's an issue. I mean, it's outrage. It's just crazy. Even most of the popular blogs that wrote about this, the title on there is Asian doll misgendered Nikita, or Asian dolls transgender disrespect, completely disregarding what she did and making her the victim. I honestly hate it here, which is why I have created a second platform for us to come together and be able to discuss these things the way we want and need to discuss them without being attacked, where we can actually prioritize our needs first. And it's a shame that we as black women even have to go underground to do that. That is ridiculous to me. I'm honestly sick of it. So what we're not going to do is keep coddling trans women and the gays like many of them aren't misogynistic and anti-black women. I'm all for calling out our transphobia as black women and our biases as black women. But my problem comes in when we're coddling other groups for the same behavior that we condemn black women for, or we're pretending that the disrespect is one-sided or only goes one way, or we're pretending that biological women's transphobia and competitive nature is the reason that they're disrespecting us. No, a lot of it is misogyny. A lot of it is envy and jealousy and competition on their part. And they're also projecting straight men's rejection of them onto us. That is also happening as well that nobody wants to call out. And what I'm not going to do is allow trans women to weaponize transphobia against black women or hide behind their oppression to avoid accountability, which is exactly what Nikita did when she started getting pushback. She started talking about the violence against trans women to invoke sympathy. No, let's also talk about how you are using your oppression and weaponizing transphobia to perpetuate harm against biological women. That is what you're doing. And you're not just going to keep popping off at the mouth about black women and being disrespectful towards us and just expecting us to let it roll off of our backs every single time because you're mad about being oppressed and you're mad about transphobia. If you don't have to tolerate transphobia, then we don't have to tolerate you being anti-black woman or misogynist. We don't have to tolerate that. So I know I triggered a lot of people, but y'all be all right. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section, and I'll catch up with you in the next one.